I recorded this earlier, but my camera didn't record. So I redid it. This one was a lot better and a lot smoother. Practice run's always good. All right, so I had my port taken out, and interestingly enough, that landed on Friday the 13th, and I started this journey on Friday the 13th. I went into the hospital a little ahead of that, but I really considered the whole treatment process starting when I got chemo, which was on Friday the 13th in August 2021. And I would have thought that was, ominous or, I don't know, unlucky in some way or something. But I don't really have the 13th as anything other than a movie. But my first chemo went well, and so I felt comfortable with getting my final surgery, the removal of the port, on the 13th. It came up quickly, too. My doctor, after the PET scan, said, "Do you want to get your port out?" And I said, "Let's wait." And the next time I saw him a month later, which was a few weeks ago, he said, "Do you want to get your port out?" And I said, "Okay, let's schedule it." They called me the next day. That was a Tuesday. They said, "We have this Friday, the 13th, 4 days later." And I had a moment where I had to think, and it wasn't about the 13th. The 13th felt like completion and like a great way to end it. I just thought I'd have maybe a week or two to process everything. There's a lot of emotional stuff on the exit as much as there is on the entrance of this illness and this whole process of facing cancer, doing chemo, and healing things on so many levels. And a friend of mine told me that it would be that way. And there's also something she mentioned. She said, when you re-enter society, there's something there too. Something it's hard to explain. And she said, "You'll know." And I said, I kind of sense that, just going out into the world. I kind of wanted to go out like kind of incognito, in case I run into somebody I know. The one place I feel sure I'm going to run into somebody I know is Whole Foods. I remember leaving the oncology clinic, and I wanted to stop in at Whole Foods. I don't remember why, but I parked my car and I thought, oh man, I'll probably see somebody I know in here. Sure enough. It's like a guarantee almost every time. So, port's gone. It's over. And you know what? It's not over. Isn't that nuts? It's done, but it's not done. And if you've been there, you know exactly what I'm saying. And if you haven't, what I'm saying is there's still the concern. And I'm not saying this is an overbearing thing or, I worry about it all the time, but it's present. It's there that cancer can surprise a person. It can sneak up. And I feel confident, I feel sure, I feel comfortable that it's not going to sneak up on me. And I still have this, and it could, and it might one day. And I'm just not going to live like that. I'm just not going to live like I might get cancer. I mean, I already did it, so the potential is distinctly there. It's different. It's different after having it than before. And I've never had anything like that before. Is that my battery? For God's sake, this camera. I'm having technical issues. My camera, which is just a camcorder, it's not fancy. It's got some resistance to functioning properly. I don't know what I was saying before the battery just so quickly died. Oh, yeah. I've never had an illness that's life-threatening. I've never had an illness that's life-altering. And I'm just going to say real quickly, this was not my plan to talk about this. I'm just going to go with it. Because sometimes what wants to be spoken or written or shared is not what we intend. And I just watched a fellow cancer fighter have this conversation on her video. She was very emotional. She was like, this isn't what I came on to do. And I was so grateful that she recorded it and shared it, because I know how hard it is sometimes. I mean, she could have recorded it and not put it online. And her Her handle on YouTube is The Fighting Felter, and she is a stage 4 terminal patient. We need the people who are dealing with that sharing about it, because there's a lot of people who are going through it, and it's like having those other people out there, like holding your hand from a distance and just knowing that somebody gets it. It really makes a difference. And I think that's why my heart pinged me, why my soul said, and why God guided me. Like, I felt so compelled in the hospital to record stuff. I can't explain it other than, God like, hey, you, wake up. Record something while you're in the hospital. And I didn't really know what to talk about. I'm not camera shy, I'm not stage shy, I'm not classroom shy. I have been in front of people for the last 12 years, and I'm very comfortable with that. So that wasn't in the way. And that wasn't some anomalous thing for me to pick up a camera. I've never done that before, not in that way, but it wasn't uncomfortable. I didn't have to really get over anything, but it was clearly not, my ego or anything like that. It was definitely something else. I did have to set aside some ego to like show myself in the gown though, and like, boy, I looked rough. Yeah, so I just wanted to acknowledge that, and she's not the only one. She's just one of the more regular people that I watch videos, and I'm finding more and more people sharing their head shave videos and their hair growth videos and what they're dealing with. And some of it's good news and some of it's not. That's the crazy, awful thing about cancer. I was trying to think of what we call people who went through it and passed away. I saw it somewhere. There's 3 words. There's fighters, that's while you're fighting. And that can be whatever treatment you're choosing. When the cancer is gone, you're a survivor. And then there's a term for those who passed because of cancer. I was trying to look that up today, and I came across a couple of articles, and I kind of wish I had saved them, like bookmarked them or something, because one was actually very good, and it was talking about, 2 of them were talking about stay away from cliches and slogans when you talk to your loved one, your friend, your family member who's dealing with cancer. In a group that I'm in, somebody just posted, if one more person tells me to be in the moment, I might explode. And everybody in the group got it. And I'm going to be honest, I think that a cancer patient is way the more in the moment than probably anybody that's saying it to them. Where else are you going to be? You're facing death. Where are you going to be? And if you don't want to be in the moment facing that shit, my God, get the hell out of that moment. Damn. To wake up and know that you have cancer in your body. I'm trying to remember what that was like and be present to that. Well, in the beginning, I was in shock, so I was just trudging through. But when I think about it now and I look back and the monster that was trying to kill me was inside my body, there's something about that. I felt, okay, so this is going to land for some of you the way I mean it, and for some of you, I don't know how you're going to be left, but there was a feeling of grossness. And I don't mean like I was disgusted with myself or anything like that. This is the process of cancer. I was choosing to find a route by which to love myself in a way that I never had. So the grossness was not a problem. It wasn't like a disgust with myself. It was, I don't know, it's like in my mind's eye, I don't see anything clearly, but in my mind's eye, there's like a dark area. That's the cancer. In other words, there's not light in there, divine light. It got obstructed somehow. And the way that it got obstructed, I know this now, I didn't know this in the beginning. The way that it got obstructed is, when I was bullied in middle school, now there was already a little bit going on ahead of that. I remember just recently something that happened when I was in 5th grade with the person that I considered my best friend. Now, we were best friends in elementary school. I moved away for half of 5th grade and moved back. And that sort of, undermined our relationship. And, if that can undermine a relationship, like, it wasn't that great. We were changing as we got older, But the way she dealt with it was super shitty. She came to me on the bus one day, like almost right before my bus stop, before I was getting off the bus. And she just was like really, in true mean girl style, she was like, I don't think we should be best friends anymore because we're about to go into middle school, and we just shouldn't be best friends anymore. Those are not, it's not verbatim, but it's pretty damn close. And what are you going to say? Okay. Your best friend breaks up with you. It hurt me. It hurt my feelings. So then we go into 6th grade and we're done. Whatever. I mean, I don't remember in 6th grade being like, oh, I wish we were friends. That wasn't there for me. But the way that she handled it was harmful. It was. Boy, I got some language today, huh? And today it's just there. It's coming out. And then in 6th grade we moved. We moved to another town in Florida. And so I forgot about that. I guess there was an impact on me. I remember when we moved 6th grade, I remember my fingers drying and cracking, and I picked at them and stuff. And I was in 6th grade, and this is a crucial time to fit in, and I'm the new kid in school, and I moved halfway. I didn't come in at the beginning. And I had whatever I had going on about that other stuff that, I was too young to remember. I can't even look back and remember how that impacted me. And then maybe a year and a half or 2 years later, that's when the bully started. And he rode my bus, and he bullied me every day on the bus, which is really verbal abuse. He was a verbally abusive 8th grader. And, I know all that stuff. Somebody was abusing him, somebody treated him like that. But when I was in 8th grade, do you know how many I had to give about that? 0. I did not care. I didn't care what was happening to him. I wanted him to stop. And it went on. And it went on. And I have this really vague recollection of fast forward into high school, a few years later. Now, I told my mom that it had happened. And I could tell that she was concerned. And she talked to my dad. And my dad said, oh, she's getting picked on. And it was minimized because that's what was done back then. I sort of feel like we talked about this before, but I don't know if I actually put it in a video. Looking back, I could have told my parents, listen, this kid won't leave me alone. I mean, it could have been like that. I could have gone to a person at school, a teacher. I could have gone to a counselor. I could have gone to the front office and just said, I need somebody to talk to. Somebody would have talked to me. I could have punched him in the face. I could have maced him. I could have done all the things. But I don't know. I didn't. And then a couple of years after the whole bullying incident, it fizzled when we got into high school. And I guess he had something else to focus on. I have no idea. But he lived really close to us. I mean, it was really one neighborhood over. And around 10th grade, he started with a friend making it over to our area of our neck of the woods, and we started hanging out. And I feel like one day he was like, are we good? What are you going to say? That's not an apology. And I just quietly whatever. And my mom asked me, I remember her asking me, are you okay with him? And I was like, yeah, I guess. I don't know how I was about it. Even now, looking back, it's not like I was excited that he was in my neighborhood. And so I buried all that. And, if you're into chakras, the chakra that's located in the upper abdomen is the 3rd one. It's yellow. Solar plexus chakra is the chakra of personal power. Why am I talking about that one? That's where the cancer grew. What happened to my personal power in that experience of being bullied? I gave my power away. And I can't say that anyone took it because it's invisible and intangible. I have to give it away. I had to give it away in order for it to be elsewhere. Nobody can take it. I didn't know about all that then, but I know now. And I've known for some time. And I guess if I had known that was there, I would have dug that crap up before getting cancer, but I didn't know. So that's at least one reason for cancer, is to help me heal that hurt. And boy, did I dig it up. I got a shovel. I got a pickaxe. I went at that thing. And I got a lot of that completed, resolved. There's still a little bit to go. And one of the reasons I know there's still a little bit to go is that there's some kids in my neighborhood that bullied a little kid. A 10-year-old, a 9-year-old, an 8-year-old. Bullied a 6-year-old. Boy, did I have some opinions and some serious reaction to that. I was so triggered. And it took me about a week and a half to realize they're here and those kids are acting that way. It's an opportunity for me to see where I haven't healed. Because if I could see them as the divine light, the soul that they are, of source, just as the rest of us are, then I would have it completely healed. I would have resolved and let go of that hurt 100%. And so as I was walking the other day, I was like, oh, I got it. I see. And then I was so triggered about it, and I had to look when I started kind of getting, well, just say praying differently for something different. And stuff's coming to light out of this focus on prayer, this approach. And so, that is why there was that dark spot in my body. And so when I, in my mind, went to kind of assess that area of my body, and I'm not talking about something psychic, I'm just saying, like, when you think of your body, you close your eyes and think about where you have pain or something like that, you might be able to see something about that. Like, I had a back pain one time, and when I closed my eyes, what I would see is like 3 vertebrae stacked, but they were like all like leaning wrong. They should be on top of each other, but they were leaning, and there was like this bright light, like electricity, and that is what my pain felt like, is what I saw in my mind's eye. And I wasn't trying to see it. That's just how bad the pain was. That was the first time I had level 10 pain. And it went away within seconds. The second time, I had it a few times with that back pain, but the time I really had level 10 pain is what got me in the hospital with this cancer. Something was touching a nerve. That's all I can tell you. Inside. Ooh, so bad. Not fun. So now I know that, when I can let go of the need to defend against bullies, it will be healed. When I don't feel like I have to defend against bullies. And I say it that way as a generalization because I realized that I felt like I had to defend against the bullies, not physically and not verbally or anything, just my way of being was that I'm going to protect my son from these bullies in my neighborhood. All 3 of those kids are labeled. There's a 4th one too. He just wasn't part of a particular event. Those 4 kids, bullies in my mind. And as I was walking that day, I realized that there is no way for me to grow past it until I can see them as human beings, and they're expressing themselves in whatever way they're doing it, and I'm judging it. And so in Wayne Dyer's book, he quotes A Course in Miracles, and it says something like, having endless patience produces instant results. And I thought, wow, I'm really impatient about them and this, and I want it to be done and over, and I'm sick of it, all that. And I got that I'm not being patient about it. I'm not coming to it with love. I'm actually coming to it with fear. That my son could get harmed. Not like these kids are mean and looking to harm people, but just like in a moment of frustration or, wanting to control a situation. My son is small, and all these kids are bigger than him. A kid could just get mad, and they could easily push him down. My desire at this time is to bring love to this situation, and I'm having a particularly hard time. And I would say that I have healed a vast majority of this 35-year-old issue. 35 is more than half of my life. One of the things that I'm doing right now is I'm changing my habits. There's habits that are not conscientious that I have, just like the rest of us, just things you do. Like my phone. I watch videos and, I do research on my phone, or I read or something, and I realize, like, staring at the light and just having the phone in my hand is not really conducive to a healthy and healing nervous system. And so I said, okay, what can I do? I can read books. And I met up with my friend Lynn at a coffee shop. And at this coffee shop, they have a little library, an area where you can leave books or take books. And she brought a pile of books one time, and she said, go through these books. I'm going to put whatever you don't take in their little library. And I said, okay. So Marianne Williamson, gosh, I like the way she writes. For me, it was just dripping with beautiful messages, a loving way to look at life. And when I read the first paragraph, I'll just tell you, I closed the book and cried. And I knew I needed to just like consume it as soon as possible, and I did. And then this one, I didn't think that I wanted to read it. I think using the word success here is probably a publisher's suggestion to hook people. Right in the first pages, Deepak Chopra says this could be called the 7 laws of life. It's just spiritual practices and an explanation of those, a nice one. I really liked both of these. And then I went to a used bookstore, and I got a book by Wayne Dyer. I thought it was in here, but it's in my bag. I just took it with me somewhere. And it's like 10 practices for success and a happy life or something like that. And there's some similarities to this one, but the writing is distinctly different. 7 laws, 10 guidelines. So the 7 laws are within the 10 guidelines, but written very differently. Another book that I'm looking at, which is actually translations, the Tao Te Ching. And I have 2 paper copies and an electronic copy. And then I have what one author did was take multiple translations and kind of combine them, but it's so simplistic that it lacks the depth and profoundness of a translation from Chinese to English. So Lao Tzu, forgive my pronunciation. I teach in a school of Chinese medicine, and my Chinese pronunciation is terrible. I mean, I just sound like an American saying Chinese words when I do say them. So I just found out, actually, this was written like 400 years before the Bible. And not that that's important other than to give you a reference for like the time frame it was written in. The Tao Te Ching. The Tao is the way. And Lao Tzu was kind of a philosopher of the time. And he observed his world, and he just saw the duality and the opposition of being human on earth, and he comments on politics and virtues and things like that. And he just was like done with society, and he was like, peace out, y'all. And when he got to the gates to leave the town, and he was going to head out to the mountains for solitude and peace, the gatekeeper said, please don't leave without giving us some guidance. And so he wrote 81 chapters. Let me show you a chapter so you know what we're talking about here. There's chapter 1. That's it. Most of them are 1 page. There's a few that are 2 pages. I don't think any go to 3 pages. It's really like 81 pages. I highly recommend that a person does not try to read the whole thing at once. I had a student one time like, I read the whole thing last night, and I was just like, I bet you did. Yep. And probably didn't really, let it work on you. Because there's some of this is really profound, There's a lot of virtuous teachings here that are very similar to the virtuous teachings of Jesus. What I also find interesting, this is not my first time through the Tao Te Ching, and what's beautiful about it is wherever you are in your life, when you connect with a chapter, it will affect you. And it will affect you differently than if you've read it in the past. And so your own development and your own growth shows up when you go back to it 10 years later, which is about when I'm going back to it. And each translation gives a little more understanding or piques your curiosity in a different way, depending on which you resonate with. The next book after this Wayne Dyer book, which I'm almost done with, is going to be this one, Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. Right meow! I read one other Eckhart Tolle book a while back. I can't remember what that one was called, but I think I read it twice. I remember there was a chapter, like a paragraph. I remember reading this paragraph like, 5, 6, 7 times before I could grasp it. That's when you know you got a juicy book. when you're like, I'm trying to get this and I have to read it 6 times, 7 times. And I had to envision what was being described. So, that's what I'm up to, is to replace these, mentally taxing, numbing out habits of research and scrolling and all that with the phone, and replace that with good quality spiritual and philosophical messages. And these are things that, I have books like this because I want to read them, and they've been sitting on my shelf because I chose to overwork. I also, Chrissy and I got a subscription to Hay House Audio, which is their app where they have all of their audiobooks, all of their meditations from all different creators and authors. just tons of information. And it was like $60 for a year. And I thought, my goodness, what's better than that? Certainly not YouTube or the internet. I would much rather have that be my source than trying to find stuff on like YouTube or something like that. YouTube's full of commercials now. It didn't used to be. Y'all remember that? Do you remember YouTube before all the commercials? Anybody? And now it's like, hey, if you don't like commercials, you can pay for YouTube. And I'm like, I'll just deal with commercials. And the other thing is, Hay House just did kind of a, hey, if you're thinking about writing a book, come to our free webinar. And it was live and it was great. And they had an offer along with that. They open their, I don't know, kind of like their writer/author's guide and I don't know what it's called, and writer's community. And it's like a step-by-step thing, like if you want to write a book. And they say authors are all over the place. Like you could be just like, I've got a story, I need to get it out. And you don't care about whether or not you get published. And you can also be at the end of like, whatever I write, I want it published big time. That's what I'm doing. So I joined that. So I'll let you know what happens with that. I mean, I know there's a book that wants to be written. I'm not sure what book that is. Because I started one way, and then I said, that's maybe. And then I thought, maybe it should be a memoir about my cancer experience. And I started writing that, and I can see how that would be healing for me in some way. But it's not a book that I think would be published. I'm not sure I want to express my story by writing it. I think I'd rather talk it, like on video. But there's another book that wants to be written, and it's starting to knock. It's starting to knock, like, hey, go get this paragraph written. And so I'm just kind of working with that. Physically, I'm doing a lot better. I still have some pain. I have in my legs mainly. I still have some weakness on occasion, but I mostly feel stronger. My legs get very stiff still, especially after sitting for a while. Just any kind of just stillness for too long. Standing, sitting, it doesn't matter. Digestive problems. I just had 3 months of what I think was purging through the bowels. I'll let you guess what that means. And it came right after this huge forgiveness of the kid that bullied me. The same day it started. And that's what had me worried about cancer coming back. But I said, okay, a couple possibilities. Maybe my pancreas is, something's wrong with it. Or my gallbladder might be purging or something, which could happen based on the natural treatments I was doing. Cancer's back, or this forgiveness, this release of something that's been going on in my body for years, 30 years, 35 years. My body is purging. And after my PET scan came back clear, I was like, it's purging. And it kept going for about 3 months. It was very odd for me. And then it had a couple times where it kind of wasn't so purgy. And what was interesting is what was coming out. I mean, if you want to know, you can email me and I'll tell you. And now it's sort of normalized. And so we'll see what goes on with that. Things are very normal right now as far as that goes. My sleep is still wonky. A little bit of it's pain and discomfort. And a little bit of it is not being able to settle, which some of it is mental and some of it's nervous system. And so I'm looking at that. And I kind of used like a CBD product for a little while, and it's not curative, it's a fix. And I don't want to rely on it. So right now I'm not taking anything to help me sleep, and just to kind of see where I'm at, because if I take something and I sleep and the problem's still there, then nothing's resolved. So right now I'm just kind of checking to see like, hey, how's my sleep going? And it's not great. I mean, last night I had a hard time, but I also ate some gas food and got some acid reflux from that. But I also went out in the world yesterday, and there was a lot of energy exchange, and I can see now that I'm probably I just need to learn how to stay grounded and reserve my energy a little bit more when I'm out and engaging people, so that I don't leave and feel off or drained. This is something I never considered before, that that level of exchange was happening or affecting me. But after being home and not engaging groups of people, I was able to see it yesterday. And actually, as I was leaving, somebody said, do you get drained, like, in groups like this? And I was like, no. When in different kind of groups where, I don't know, the conversations might be different or whatever, or the people are different, I do, and I notice it. And then I got in my car and I was driving and I was like, well, actually, she's right. There is something going on there. And I had a great time. That's the thing, is I had such a great time. And maybe I was just like kind of wound up. That's because I was excited seeing people I haven't seen in so long, people that I just have been really looking forward to seeing. And so that's just another thing I get to share and teach people with, is that noticing that energy exchange, even in such a positive, wonderful, exciting environment. I was so happy to be there. But yeah, I have to figure out how to like kind of reserve that or move my energy differently, which I've never been conscious of. But now I think, whoa, okay, something to do there. All right, so physical, mental, emotional. Okay, there's some post-traumatic stress, and it gets triggered by different things. I would say sometimes food triggers it. Not like eating the food, but just maybe a food that I ate through the process might take me back to the memory of it. Things that I avoid now because my sugar consumption is almost nil. It's very low. I do eat carbohydrates. It's just not sugars, not, processed sugar. I don't eat very much fruit. Almost everything is cooked. And so that's a big difference. My diet is still largely eating greens on a regular basis. I kind of go through cycles where I'm just like, I just can't eat any more greens. And I'll still eat them pretty regularly, but I might have a few days where I just don't really eat any. But a large part of my diet is rice or potatoes, and then chicken as protein, eggs maybe. I was eating a lot of summer squash, like zucchini and yellow squash. I just have not had the appetite for that lately. It's just boring. And I did mushrooms for a long time, and I just don't want mushrooms right now. So I had greens and mashed potatoes today, and it was so good. So it kind of depends. But I did go through a period there where I really didn't eat much greens for like a month or so. So mental, emotional. Yeah, there's post-traumatic stress, and there's different things that can take me back to that. Like when I have to go to the clinic, I'm happy to go back because they're so warm and welcoming, and, I don't know, they're highly trained in working with cancer people. And it's such a difference maker that it's pleasant going in that context of like being known and recognized and gotten in what I'm going through. And at the same time, the span of time as it extends from when I got chemo to now, and like every visit is like farther from that, the nurses are so focused on the patients that are currently there. That part's not the same. The techs and the people who do like the basic blood tests and my doctor is all very much the same. But the nurses, I don't have to see them anymore, actually. So the contact with them they're still friendly when I do see them and wonderful, but there's not the time to like have a conversation like there was before. And it's just, and they're doing what they're there to do, which is to take care of the people who are currently in it. And that's very important and very needed. Smells sometimes will take me back to it. Certain clothes, because I would almost always wear a tank top because they had to access my port, which was over here. So there's a certain tank top that I have that I just somehow relate to it as my chemo tank top. I would never put it in those words except to explain it to you, but that's, as I think of it, I'm like, that's kind of how I think of that shirt. Yeah, and sometimes conversation or just, train of thought will take me back to something, and sometimes I get upset or cry or get angry. And I just embrace those emotions, and I encourage you to do the same. Not just if you're dealing with cancer or illness, just in your life, anybody. Don't shove your emotions down. Don't push them aside. Let them show you what wants to be healed. And they will. They will do it. You feel sad? Hey, sadness, what are you trying to show me? And then look and see if you can find out where it's coming from. Sometimes you just notice it. Okay, I see. There's something there that I could work on. Yeah, don't be scared. Don't shove it away. What I did was sweep it under the rug and then pretend the rug wasn't there. I got so good at it. Tripping over that rug all over the place every time I turn around. Okay, emotionally, pretty even-keeled, pretty steady. Obviously, the post-traumatic stress is, it's a process. And I will not ignore those emotions. I will let them guide me on how to heal. Spiritually, nailing it. Definitely back on track with that. Maybe more on track than I've been in a long time since before the pandemic, And the way that I'm choosing to have my habits be conscientiously reading books, listening to meditations and spiritual books, it really helps. It really helps. Yeah, that's where it's at. The kids are doing so well. My son just completed some swim lessons. So much confidence. He was very cautious getting into the pool with the teacher, and she would kind of like splash him and get water on him. And I was like, what is she doing? And I realized that she's desensitizing him by splashing him a little bit. So she'll splash him, and then she'll be like, oh, you okay? And I was like, oh. And by the end of that 2 weeks, actually it was 4 weeks, two 2-week cycles, he was jumping in. And prior to that, he didn't want to get into the pool at a party that we went to with kids his age. And that's when I was like, okay, it's got to be his confidence in the water. Because he didn't even want to get in, even in the area where he could stand up. It just wasn't fun for him. My daughter, potty trained. One day, she was in her room, and I don't know what she was doing, but I was like, do you have to go to the bathroom? She was like, "Va." That's how she says, yeah. And I pointed to her potty, and she went on it. And I was like, today is the day. And I don't know why I knew that or thought that or said that, but it was the day. And that was the breakthrough moment. When they get it, they get it. And she spent about a week, maybe a little less than a week, using like a little kid potty that you could really take with you anywhere. And we did a couple times take it places because she would not put on a diaper. Once she got into underwear, she's like, no diaper for me. I'm a big girl now. And the next thing you know, she's getting up on the big potty and going. And so we did a lot of song and dance and clapping and celebrating. And she loved that, and that encouraged her a lot. And she sleeps in height with underwear, and it's only been like 2.5, 3 weeks. Wow. My son was like that too. We had a challenge though. He had to be in school a couple days a week because we were both working, and he just would not let them deal with his diaper. It was stressful for us. And then I was like, so what is going on? Like, why isn't he getting potty trained? Because he was a little older. And what did it for me was I saw this kid who was probably 4.5 or 5 in a diaper. And I just was like, no, it can't, no. He wasn't 4.5 or 5. I think he was 3 at that point. And I went to Chrissy and I was like, okay, potty training, what is happening with him? I said, I know you did the early potty training and he was trained and like our life changed and I didn't maintain it, I know. And we talked about it and I said, I'm not going to be able to maintain what you're doing with the potty training. He was potty trained at like 9 months. That's Chrissy. And then she had to work more and we kind of swapped a little bit. And it was kind of like halvesies as far as work went. And so that wasn't enough time, for her, and I just didn't have it in me to do it. So he was in diapers again, and then she goes, okay, I'm going to order this book. It's called Oh Crap Potty Training. I'm trying to think of the author's name, Jamie Glowacki, something like that. She's got a whole Oh Crap series. Well, that book is so well broken down, and it's got every scenario you could possibly think of. If this is you, this is how you potty train your kid. It was one page. Chrissy goes, read this page. I read the page. I was like, oh, it's us. Got it. Let's do it this weekend. And she was like, this weekend? I was like, yes. Did it over the weekend. He was trained. It was us. It was whatever we were doing or not doing. And I'm like, I kind of knew it was us. I just didn't know what it was about what we were doing. But what about Chrissy? So Chrissy now has a radio show. It's on News for the Soul Radio. And I'm pretty sure you can look on there and look for Chrissy with Soul Awakening, and you can hear archives. And this has been a really great training for Chrissy. So she has a monthly show for 18 months. She does readings. She's a psychic and a medium. She is very accurate, we'll just say. And she does many readings with people. And in the beginning, she was so nervous the first few sessions. She's only done it December, January, February, March, April, May. So she's only done 6, but the last 2 she really has been breaking through in her comfort and seeing how she can lead the show and move things forward and have more people call in. I wasn't ready, but I'll do it on my own. And so I listened the last couple times and I gave her a little bit of feedback. I've had more experience in front of people in groups and it's new to her. And so that part's really cool. And we have a website, www.soulawakeningscenter.com, and the homepage has links to that if you're interested. That's our world and our life right now. I'll probably re-enter the workforce soon. I did go talk to the school that I teach at about teaching 2 classes in the fall, which is a few months away. June, July. Actually, it starts at the end of July, but it's only 2 classes a week. And, financially that's better than nothing, but yeah. Oh, yeah, so disability is a no. I did do the appeal. I did talk with a lawyer, but they said because of the way Florida rolls, they really can't even look at my case until it's a year, because Florida's like, well, if we think you can work within the year. And I'm like, I mean, part-time. I'm not sure about full-time. I do feel a lot better. I'm now somebody who is not going to force my body to do things it's really not comfortable with yet. In the past, I would have just been like, whatever, I'll just push right on through, pay for it later. And, the cost was just too high, so I'm not willing to do that anymore. I'm mostly at home. I do take walks. I'm kind of looking to say, okay, should I walk every day still? Or should I do like a day of maybe like yoga or something like that maybe? Some stretching. And thank you for watching. I love you. May your life be wonderful.